Hello, everyone, and welcome to Dreamleapers Inspiration. I'm your host, Harriet Cole. As always, honored to be here with you, to be in this space, this very special, what I call sacred space of love, of compassion, of support, supportiveness. Maybe just support is the word. And today it's funny because we're talking about watching our words. I've been using my words so much in the past few days and weeks. Just this past weekend, I spent a lot of time with creative people in Prince George's County, Maryland, at the Take Three, the third annual film festival for that community, and had the honor of moderating 4 panels and being in conversation with the amazing actress Victoria Rao. So I was talking a lot, and thinking, talking, working to find ways to connect the stories that were being shared to the audience and to help all of us to find the greatness in the moment. Because that is my focus, that is what I do. And in whatever environment I find myself, that is my intention. And I was telling my team just before coming on this morning, I'm tired. It happens when you put out a whole bunch of energy and you don't take a break. Don't really recommend the not taking a break part, but in this particular case for this weekend, it was a time to extend time and be there for my friends and people in the industry, and so I did. Sometimes when you are tired, sometimes when you are frustrated, sometimes when you are irritated, worried, um, any of those experiences that would be other than simply feeling calm and rested and at ease, it can be challenging to say what you mean to say. It can prove impossible sometimes to pause, like we say that we should do here on Inspiration, to pause and reach for the right words to express whatever it is that you're thinking and feeling and believing would be right for the moment. And yet, it is especially in those times that it is important to watch your words. I say this because I know it to be true, and uh, my experience has been whenever I am pushing really hard, really fast, and wanting to get something out or reacting to something that has come my way that I don't think is right, that needs some kind of course correction, that is offensive, when I simply react, it usually backfires in some way or another. It can often be a very subtle way, but when I don't take a moment to pause and breathe and go through those filters that I've told you so many times, the 4 gateways of speech. Is it true? Is it kind? Is it necessary? Is it timely? When I don't do that and I just blurt out whatever I'm thinking, if it is emotionally charged, it often causes a problem. And so I thought this would be worth it for all of us to contemplate. What does it mean to watch your words? What does it mean to be conscious of what comes out of your mouth when you are engaging others. And sometimes it's out of your fingertips if your words are coming through writing, and to really acknowledge the power in that. And I want to share with you that as we started last week, if any of you would like to come on and participate in this conversation, you can. You can go on the website to harrietcole.com/inspiration, and there's a button right there where you can come backstage and I will bring you on to be part of the conversation. We haven't really advertised this much, so not sure who is out there listening. This is available on lots of different platforms, and many people watch on demand. But if you want to be part of the conversation, even if it's just to say hello, if you want to share what's on your heart as it relates to Watch Your Words, please go online to harrietcole.com/inspiration. And we're going to be together for about a half hour, and you're welcome to join in. So, watch your words. How often do you think about that? How often do you wonder what impact your words may have on someone else? Do you think about what impact your words may have on someone else? A lot of times we think, oh, it's just me. What do people care? What difference does it make? And I have learned it makes a huge difference. The simplest of things in passing can make a difference to a person, even a random person who you don't even know. It's really so. Let's see. This is Shaw Martin says almost all of the time. I'm assuming you're meaning how often does it make a difference, or how often do you think about it? Uh, but Shaw says I don't give a damn when I'm mad. Okay, so this is the thing. When you're mad, we usually don't give a damn, but it's so important, especially then, to take a pause. We are excellent at retaliating when somebody hurts us, when we just feel full of whatever the anxiety, whatever it could be anxiety, rage, anger, frustration, whatever that might be. When we feel full like that, it could just be the quickest thing that that can get us to go over the edge. That last straw thinking. But what if we don't? What if we don't? What if we don't have to create moments for regrets? What if okay. Shah says Shah was talking about not, not lashing out. I think that it makes a huge difference when we pause. I think it's very difficult sometimes to pause. But, one of the things that I learned years ago, way before the internet. I was working at Essence Magazine. This probably was in 80s, 90s. We were just using computers, but what we used a lot was a telephone answering machine. Does anybody remember that? Put put a yes in the chat box if you remember telephone answering machines. Technology has grown so quickly that it's just kind of amazing. But I remember someone said to me, "Do not leave a message when you are, when you're all stirred up. Don't leave it immediately. Think about it. Let it sit for a minute. Maybe let it sit overnight before you leave that voicemail. Let it sit overnight before you send that text, right? Don't just send it. Don't just leave the voicemail there, because you never know what's going to happen." And so today we have text, we have social media, we have all these different outlets to share what we're thinking exactly in the moment. And I want to say to you, exactly in the moment, pause. If you are feeling rage, if you are feeling incensed about something, that is the moment to pause. That is the moment to resist the temptation to react, to resist the temptation to use your words as swords. And this can be difficult. And I'm going to say to you right now, I'm not always good at it. In recent days, I have reacted to things a little bit too quickly with a sharp tongue, sharp written word. And the result was I got the message across, sure, very clearly, but it hurt somebody's feelings. Now, does it matter if you hurt somebody's feelings? It does if you're thinking about humanity and how we can really support each other in the world. Uh, but also, just to be effective, if you are engaged with other people in business, in personal relationships, in family, whatever it might be with, if you're engaged with other people and you lash out and hurt them, they recoil. Often what happens is they become less effective at whatever the task is that was before them. So suddenly they aren't so good at completing a job at work because maybe they didn't do something well and you told them about it really sharply rather than having that be a motivating force to get them to do better. They they will they you know they shrink and feel less confident about their abilities. And so if you could share the same information with them in a way that buoys them, that uplifts them, it can be the same information, but how do you deliver it? So it's watch your words and the way that you express your words, right? And I find that when we take the time to pause and think about the delivery, how do I want to share this? What do I want the impact to be of my message? What do I want the impact to be? Pause and ask that question. What do I want the result to be of whatever this communication is? If I want the result to be better results, better productivity, uh, better engagement, leave me alone. Whatever it is, think about what you're going to say and how you're going to say it, and whether you believe that it will make that happen. And if not, take a breath, take a pause, and find another way to express yourself. Find another time to express yourself. I think a lot of times when we are reactionary, we then have to live with the result of what we put out into the world. And it can often just take more energy, more time, and more damage control than is probably necessary. So I want to remind folks, if you want to join this conversation, we are talking about watching your words, what it means. You have a story of when you did it well or when you didn't do it so well. You want to come on and talk about it? Go online to harrietcole.com/inspiration and you can participate in this conversation. I'll bring you on screen if you like. We just started doing this. It's our experiment to see if you'd like to engage in conversation. No pressure, but if you'd like to, you're welcome to come join us. Last week, a few people joined us. That was our first time doing it, and it was really cool. So if you'd like to join us, you can. So as always, I found a quote that can help illuminate this notion of watch your words. And this time, I always find a quote. This time, it is from the Bible. It's from Proverbs 16:24, and it says, "Gracious words are a honeycomb, sweet to the soul and healing to the bones." Mm. Close your eyes and listen to that one again. Gracious words are a honeycomb, sweet to the soul and healing to the bones. Sweet to the soul and healing to the bones. That's like going deep. Have you ever looked at a honeycomb? You know, in the summers we spend time in the country, and so I get an opportunity to be around nature because I'm a true city girl. I have seen discarded honeycombs on occasion, and in fact, I saw a wasp's nest, which is a little different, but the way it's made looks very similar. I saw one this summer, and in looking at it, and then just if you think of a honeycomb itself and looking at it, there are layers. And within the honeycomb, there are lots of little, it looks like compartments, but little hugs is kind of what it feels like. Little compartments that hold sweetness. And there's something about being wrapped in sweetness. One of my dear friends um, says all the time, give yourself a hug. The honeycomb feels like a hug. Like this says, it's sweet to the soul and healing to the bones. So think about this. Gracious words are a honeycomb, sweet to the soul, sweet to your heart, which is strong but also tender, and healing to the bones. When something happens, it goes all the way into your bones, into your DNA, into your cells, and is healing. What happens? You can sit up straight. You can relax your body as you are strong in your body. You can just be more at ease because you feel safe. You feel like in this moment, like the universe has your back. And if you are engaged with other people and what you received was like these words, these gracious words were sweet, even as they may have been instructive, you feel buoyed up, you feel supported to be able to get to the next level. And so uh yeah, Sippy Writer says how you say it is so important. How you say what you say. So it's watching your words as they come from thoughts, they're formed in your mind. You get ready to share them. And how are you sharing them? Through what tone of voice? Through what intention? So I, I think of myself, I often give you stories of me and parts of my life because I think you can learn from those stories. It's not just to share about me, but it's to share something that may inspire you. So I don't know if I've told you this story or not, but in my first job out of college, I hadn't really planned. I was an English major. I was a great student. I was a model. I hadn't really had, I didn't have internships then. I didn't, back then, that wasn't the focus, at least in my world. So I ended up at a job as basically a secretary for a member of Congress. I did not like that job. No offense to that very important job of secretary, but it wasn't the job that I wanted. And I was mad because I felt like I was smart, capable, wanted to do whatever I wanted to do, should be making more money. Never mind, at that moment, I didn't have a plan. So I was lucky to have a job, but I didn't think that at the time. And I would go to work doing things that it was unconscious, which is often true for people, but doing things that could easily have got me in trouble. So, for example, at this time in the 80s, how you dressed to go to work was blue suit, white shirt, blue uh, little tie, sheer pantyhose, and blue pumps. That's how women dressed, and men wore the male version of that. But the suits for women were mainly skirt suits. It was very conservative. I was a model. I was interested in fashion. I wanted to dress hip and cool the way I dressed when I was in college. And there was no space for that. So what I would do, so like now, I have on dangling earrings. Pardon me now. Well, back then in the mid 80s, dangling earrings, probably even now on Capitol Hill, had nothing to do with each other. But one day I wore a pair of dangling earrings to work with my blue suit. And the office manager, Charlotte, I didn't think of her as a dear then, but I realized she worked so hard to watch her words, so hard, trying to teach this young professional who never had a job in a conservative environment what was appropriate for that environment. So she probably had thought about this all day. Anyhow, she came up next to me. She sidled up next to me and she said, Harriet, I love your earrings. I said, oh, thank you, because she was not one to compliment the way that I put myself together. And she said, for the club. I have never forgotten that because at first I can tell you I was insulted. What do you mean for the club? But it was her creative way of acknowledging, okay, you have a nice pair of earrings, but they have no place in this office environment. We're on Capitol Hill. This is where you wear a pearl stud or a tiny little, small earring that is not dangling. I remember it because she took her time to figure out how to get a message across to me that wasn't hurtful, that wasn't judgmental, but that gave me information that I needed. And I use that example because I've talked to so many young people in particular as they're starting their careers, and not just, it's true for lots of people, not just young people, but often you have to have more than one job that isn't the exact right fit for you before you find your right fit. And every work environment has a dress code, whether it's official or not. And so how you present yourself everywhere, whether it's work or anywhere else, how you present yourself makes a difference. And it is important to understand what the culture is of that environment. And I'm going to say work and anywhere else you place yourself so that you are able to navigate effectively and not create roadblocks for yourself that don't matter. So I realized in that moment that I needed to make a change in order to keep my job and be regarded well, even as I also mapped out a plan to do something else because it wasn't right for me. So I did not get myself fired. I figured out other things so that I would be able to reposition myself for next. And it worked. I have seen so many people, like if you have a typing job, which is most people now, and your fingernails are 5 inches long, and you wonder why you're not able to do your job well. Could it be something that you're doing? If you wear something to work that is completely inappropriate for that environment, but you feel like I'm going to be authentically me and I get to do what I want and you have to be okay with it. And you wonder why you aren't being promoted to whatever is next. Could it be part of what you're doing? So Charlotte let me understand in the most gracious of ways, check yourself for where you are. If she had said that to me in a mean way, in really, if you keep doing this, this is what's going to happen, I probably would have gotten indignant because that's what we do. Whether I was right or wrong, I probably would have gotten indignant. And so I'm saying this to you. This is one example. But because this woman said it to me as creatively and kindly as she could, it got through, and I remember. I'll give you another example of watching your words, something that happened where I was the one sharing some wisdom, as Gabrielle Dahl says, wisdom. I this summer had an encounter with someone who really was inappropriate in the way that she communicated with someone who was with me. And I was hot. I was mad. I was hurt. It created a negative energy. People did not feel good. And I agonized over how to handle it because it impacted this group of people who I had brought together. And so I sat on it. I walked on a beach. I meditated. I had a couple of screams to myself. And then I got quiet and I said, I'm going to find a way to share what the impact was of that this person's words had on my friend and my guest. And so, those questions, is it true? Is it kind? Is it necessary? Is it timely? I found a good time when everybody was peaceful and alert and sober. And I shared what had happened and how it made my guest feel and how it made me feel and how it wasn't cool. And I shared it in a way that was loving, that was specific, that was actionable because it was specific. It wasn't just like, this is how you made me feel, or this is how you made someone feel. It's hard to have a good outcome of that if it's just about how you made somebody feel. And I said it calmly and lovingly. And took me a minute to get to that. And the person I shared it with then said to me later, sent me a note saying, "Thank you for sharing that. I'm so sorry it happened. I never, ever mean to hurt anyone, and I'm sorry that I did. And I mostly appreciate the way you shared it with me because it was shared in a way that I could receive it." So I want you to know that was not easy for me to do. I wanted to, fight with words. I wanted to say every kind of thing I could say to hurt that person who had hurt me and my friend and guest. And I knew that wasn't going to work because lashing out, it just becomes a sword fight, and it can become a sword fight of words. And, you know, I could myself, I can win this sword fight. I am a wordsmith. And while I could probably win a sword fight with words, to what end? To what end? If it's just simply going to be hurtful to people, what happens at the end of that? So, uh, let's see. Someone says presentation. Oh, CP Writer says presentation is key. Becoming a better person takes honest work. It's true. It's true. Um, okay, I have to address this one because folks are writing in, so I want you to hear. Um, Renee's Creative says, "By the way, I love your earrings. I make jewelry similar to what you're wearing." Well, I want to see that jewelry, Renee. So send me some pictures. I bought these earrings in India. So I always have a story because I believe storytelling is everything. So I'll tell you that quickly. The last time I was in India, I'm on a board of a charity that is headquartered in India. It's called Prasad. And I welcome you to go look at prasad.org and see all the great work that we do. While there, the last time, um, you know, we have our moments when we have downtime. And so I was walking around in the village, and there's a tiny little shop that has all kinds of relics, Indian relics, and including, statues of the Indian deities, beautiful hand woven rugs and shawls and jewelry. And so I looked in this jewelry case and I saw these earrings. They're sterling silver and carnelian. And they just called out to me. And so I asked the proprietor if I could see them. And I put them on. He said, "Oh, it looks like those were made for you." And after I bought them a couple other things, a couple gifts for people, and then when I was leaving, he said, "You know what? Those earrings have been in my store for like 27 years. 27 years. And no one ever tried them on before now. They really were for you." Isn't that something? Has resonated with me a lot because when you are focused, when you know who you are, when you know what you want, I mean, something as simple as an earring, but also we bring it out to this that we're talking about now about watching your words and how you engage others. If you are specific and intentional, my girlfriend Lejeune and I talk about being conscious and intentional, then often like the road opens, the doorway opens, and what you end up seeing is exactly what you need. What you end up attracting is precisely what you need. I'm gonna give you one more example, and I know we're at 30. We're gonna go over a little bit. Hope that's okay with you. Yesterday, I I was in conversation with Victoria Rao. Many of you, if you ever watched The Young and the Restless, she was Drusilla Winters on The Young and the Restless. She was there for 14 years, and she's done lots of other things, but a whole lot of people know her from that. And she was at this film festival sharing her wisdom with the audience, and the audience was filled with people who want to make films with some level of making films, often at the beginning, but not just. And so they are soaking it up, learning from her. She is now also a director and a producer as well as an actor. And we had a wonderful conversation, in part because I want to share with you preparedness is everything. I believe that for everything, including showing up for you now and showing up in my work for sure, everything we do. And so my team works with me closely and we do research to find out everything we can find out about a person before we're in conversation with them. And I'm so grateful for that support. And so I had watched a bunch of videos and read excerpts from her books and just everything I could to get a synthesis of this woman. And so I was able to ask her really insightful questions that helped her to be able to just share something beautiful with the audience over and over again. And so during the interview, she said, Harriet, that's a really good question. Wow. Thank you for asking that. That's a perfect question for this moment. And I'm telling you this not to blow up my ego at all. It is to tell you preparedness, thinking about the words that you use to engage people, setting the moment up for success makes it so everyone wins. When you watch your words, what happens? So let's look at that quote again before we leave each other. From Proverbs, from the Bible, it says, gracious words are a honeycomb, sweet to the soul and healing to the bones. Gracious words are a honeycomb, sweet to the soul and healing to the bones. What happened in this conversation with Victoria, I was able to ask her a number of very tender questions about her career, about her family, about one question was about how she was able to evolve past relationships with both uh, men with whom she had children, but was no longer in a relationship, a marriage that had ended, and do it with poise and grace. Well, I was able to ask her that, which is a really tough question because she trusted me by the time we got to that point in the conversation. She knew I wasn't setting her up for anything but success. And that I asked her this question so that she could share her wisdom with the audience who may also be going through whatever these tender moments might be. And as a result, she was able to share how she fills her cup, how she has learned how to get strong within herself, learn and grow from every relationship, and keep it moving. That could have been asked in another way that could have been painful, that could have been unsupportive. Because the conversation was supportive, the audience benefited, as did the two of us. So, using gracious words to get to the truth, it is not to sugarcoat anything. To get to the truth, to get to a better space, it's a beautiful way of being. And I encourage you to practice. Take a breath, pause, and consider what you are going to say and what impact it may have on others. And choose the impact that is going to be uplifting. Watch your words and see how majestic they can be and how positively impactful they can be on others. Thank you so much for joining. Thank you for staying a little bit longer. I wish you all the greatness of using your words today and this week. Look forward to seeing you next week. Next week. And until next time, have a great day and make it count. Namaste.